Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh is brought to you by
Harry Freebed, Collectible Insurance Services, West Michigan Eye Care Associates, Eric Hall Aesthetic and General Dentistry, Calder Financial, Grand Management Group, Encore Business Group, and Rydan Investments.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh.
Stay informed and stay vigilant. We roll on with our counter intel segment here, and we're going to preview the Falcons-Lions matchup. I'm excited to talk some Falcons here. We're bringing on Saivion Mixson of the Falcoholic, which I think has to be my favorite SB Nation name for a team writing outfit here in the NFL. Pride of Detroit isn't bad. That's what we have here, but Falcoholic's pretty good. But this is a good young team. I'm a big Michael Penix guy because I went to Indiana, and I'm excited to talk to him. So welcome to the show, Saivion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, the guy, Dave, that made the name, I mean, he's brilliant in so many different ways. So shout out to Dave for everything. But no, it's an exciting time in Atlanta right now.
Well, there's a lot of Falcoholics out there. That's a good fan base down there in Atlanta. They're very dedicated to the team down there, and I think they're going to have a lot to cheer about because I'm curious to hear what you think. You're the one kind of keeping an eye on camp and what's going on there, but I try to follow them, especially if we're going to cover them for the show. And man, that depth chart and everything that's coming together there is looking pretty good to me. And you've got a team that, if Penix starts and you extrapolate out how he did in his starts, even though you'd have some growing pains, I'm sure, in the first few games, he was a veteran quarterback for a rookie. He had a lot of experience, and he came in and replaced Cousins because he wasn't really living up to what they were hoping. But if you extrapolate out a full season of Michael Penix, they probably make the playoffs last year, and they would have been one of those teams that wouldn't have necessarily been highly touted, but I don't think anybody would have really wanted to play them either.
Well, that's the thing with the Falcons right now is this has been one of the longest droughts that we've had when it comes to not making the playoffs. So anything to kind of get us back there, and Terry Fontenot, that's what he was brought here to do. He was brought here to fix the cap. He came from that New Orleans Saints background, and he was brought in to bring in a different culture, that culture of winning that we were kind of got used to with Matt Ryan. As soon as he came in, it was kind of like gangbusters, and we've been chasing the dragon ever since he left.
Well, this roster's coming together here, I think, and I'm going to start here because there's a couple articles that I wanted to highlight that you wrote. We'll go through the roster a little bit and who you're liking and how it's forming here, but it's always interesting to me. I'm usually, just so you know, Saivion, I'm usually kind of against the big swing as far as a trade goes. I think it goes wrong more than it goes right, and I'm more of a team-building, young group. Let's build the young core and then build it out from there. But you were talking about the hot name in in the trade market right now, which is Micah Parsons, and how the Falcons could take a swing. But I also like how those ends are coming together because you guys have invested in some young defensive ends, and not that Parsons wouldn't be an upgrade from almost anybody in the league, but I like that young unit. So I'm curious about your thoughts. I know you wrote a good article on the Falcoholic, but I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
So my thoughts on that is, first and foremost, I don't think Michael Parsons is leaving. I think this is a whole lot of hubbub about nothing when it comes to Jerry Jones. And I actually agree with you. I actually agree with you when it comes to keeping the core together, because it seems like these guys really enjoy playing with each other. James Pierce Jr. seems to be just a wrecking crew by himself, and with the upside with Jalen Walker, the new guys Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts in the back end of the defense, it just kind of feels like this is a team that wants to sort of build together. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. I just did the article because, you have to, when somebody like Michael Parsons comes onto the trading block, you have to call. And given the aggressiveness that Terry Fontenot has shown when it comes to getting Bijan Robinson instead of Jalen Carter, whether that's going to get Michael Penix in the first place after spending the money for Kirk Cousins and then trading that 2026 first to get James Pierce Jr. I just feel like we can't put a Michael Parsons trade past him, even if this unit sort of is built, like you said, more so kind of like Detroit is, building that young core.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's a good point about kind of the trades for Penix and Pierce, because they are taken from some of the future assets, which is not a problem if you hit on the picks, and that seems to be what's happening. Pierce hasn't played yet, but he's clearly one of the stars of camp so far, from what I've been reading on the Falcoholic and elsewhere. And Penix had a better first season than even I expected. I've been a believer in him for a long time because I watched him at Indiana before most people knew about him, and then followed his career on to Washington. But he looked NFL ready. He's held up well, and you do have the best backup quarterback in the league, because that's still a starting caliber quarterback. I'm curious if you think he's going to be on the roster at the beginning of the season, though. Obviously, he's not going to get cut, but I have to feel like maybe somebody else is going to call about him.
Somebody has to, and I think that's the reason why you're not seeing both Penix nor Kirk Cousins in the first preseason game, because they want to see what they have in Easton Stick and what they have in Emory Jones, just to see what kind of backup do we need to go and get, or if there's somebody that we do need to go and get. Like, you just saw the Browns. I don't know if you just saw, but the Browns just picked up Snoop Huntley. So quarterbacks are going off the board really quickly. So, they want to make sure that if Kirk Cousins is not on this roster by the end of this trade deadline and something happens to Penix, because we do have to accept the fact that Penix does have a good amount of injuries, that may creep up during the season. And if they do, then you have to have some sort of contingency plan, especially in this last year where it feels like the pressure is really ramped up. This is Terry Fontenot's 5th season. He hasn't made the playoffs yet as a GM. His first coach has already been fired. The second one is not on the hot seat per se, but there's a lot of pressure going on right now. And, there's just this pressure to succeed quickly. And I think that, that is sort of leading the way with the decision making.
That's a good point. I'm sure there is some urgency behind some of these moves, saying, hey, I'm feeling the heat. That's a real thing. You don't know how much rope you're going to be given after you've already removed the other part, your partner to your job. If you're the GM, you remove the coach, and then more pressure's on you because you obviously hired both coaches. I didn't see that Huntley was picked up. So I think that, but by my loose count in my head, without looking up the roster, I think that brings them up to 49 quarterbacks. So if they trade for Kirk Cousins, that'll be an even 50, and they still got 3 roster spots for Garrett and a couple other guys.
Most definitely. And I do like Kirk Cousins, and I really appreciate the way that he came out and simply just as a professional. Like, he truly, this really could have gotten ugly very quickly. But instead of doing that, Kirk Cousins came in and he became just a mentor for Penix. And he didn't have to do that. I mean, that's, of course, the right thing to do. But, this is a business. And if anybody knows business, Kirk Cousins knows business. And he instead came in, kind of took on that mentor role, and is just waiting for his next opportunity, which honestly could come at any moment. And you just have to commend him for being the professional that he is.
I agree, and there's a lot of eyes on Kirk Cousins here in this area because he's from this area originally, from the west side of town, and he went to Michigan State, just east of us here. So there's a lot of people that are paying attention to him in his career arc, which has been an interesting one. But I do think I agree with you, because we were talking about this with Gavino Borquez of Chargers Wire when we were reviewing the Chargers game, how they might acquire Keenan Allen, and the idea behind it being, okay, you're going to get a veteran that may not be able to give you what he used to on the field. But if that guy can finally, it's hard for these guys because they've been the guy all the way through from grade school, rocket football, whatever, and then they move up and they've been the guy. To take that step down and not be the guy anymore is a tough pill to swallow. We all know that. But if he can do it, he can make his team better and then get some acclaim for saying, hey, yeah, he might have taken a step back. He might not have played as much, but look at how well this team is doing. And I'm sure Penix, because he's a stand-up guy too, will give Cousins the proper amount of credit as he hopefully starts his ascension for the Falcons' sake.
And so far he has. He's already talked to, and I forgot which coach it was. I want to say it was the quarterback coach, Williams, kind of talked about just letting those two kind of just talk it out in the quarterback room and just seeing the back and forth and just seeing how, that relationship is sort of forming. And that kind of relationship is just, you can't quantify it, especially when it comes to the development of a quarterback like Penix, a young quarterback like Penix. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is on record talking about multiple times about how that relationship with Alex Smith made him the quarterback that he was, put him in a position to where he could get that early success and know what to do with it. So hopefully Kirk Cousins is doing the same thing for Michael Penix.
I feel like he will. That's a great tandem. We'll have to see if they stay together. Like you said, I'm sure they're going to get some calls about Cousins here, but we're going to take a quick break. But I want to talk to you about who you're looking out for, who you want to see in the game on both sides here, who interests you on the Lions side and on the Falcons side, and kind of go through the groups. Because man, I've been reviewing this depth chart on the Falcons side, and it's a good depth chart. There's a lot of good players here, so I want to highlight them and see who you have your eyes on. But we'll come back with Saivion Mixson of the Falcoholic after the break. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh.